Folks, I'd like to welcome Uncle Billy to the stage with me, Ngunnawal man and elder, board member of the Stolen Generation, and an active participant in ACT courts to welcome us all to Ngunnawal country.
Good morning. How are you all? Good. My name's William Tompkins. People in the community know me as Billy T. I'm a Ngunnawal Wiradjuri man. My father's from this country here, and my mother's from over in Cowra, which is Wiradjuri country. So, welcome. I'll just so you get to know who I am and what I do in our community. I'll just give you a little bit of a story. I was born in Cowra. As soon as I was 8 months old, I was taken away as a Stolen Generation, put into institution in Sydney, and then when I was 4, I was transferred from Sydney to Mittagong, and I lived there for right up until I was 18, 19 years of age. So, having been through, the institutions and the system and things like that, when I got out, I moved on, and got to meet my family for the first time. And I went up to Young one time and started cherry picking up there with my brother, who was also in the homes with me. And after a hard week's work, we went to the pub and had a few lemonades. Nice and cold lemonades. And this lad walked past, and he was to us, he was an elder as well. So, but then he took a backward step and he had another look at us and he come over and said, "Hey, where you mob from, And we said, "Oh, we're from Wollongong, Mittagong, Wollongong, but we're born in Cowra, And then he said, "Who's your mum?" And we told him who our mum was. Then he said, "And who's your father?" And I didn't know. But Mum called me Young Crow. And he just looked at me and said, "Come here, nephew," and hugged me. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? Anyway, apparently he was and still is, my uncle. And that's my dad's brother. So he recognised me straight away as his young brother. Sadly, Dad's not here no more. He passed away in 94. But me and my sister, Serena Williams, and no, not the tennis player, we carry on his legacy here in Canberra on Ngunnawal country, and we're very so proud to do that, in honour of him. We also teach, Aboriginal cultural dances with other kids, my kids, Serena's nephews and nieces, and other people that come from around the countryside. So we're very happy to do that, and teach these young'uns their culture. Because myself, I didn't know my culture when I got out of the homes. I didn't know my language. I didn't know anything, any songs. So I went up to Darwin and hitchhike. I'll never do that again. But, I was just in my own little world doing what I wanted to do. And I worked in various Aboriginal radio stations, like Karma Radio in Alice Springs, T-Bar up in Darwin, Yundarinja Media in Doomadgee, 4AAA in Brisbane, and down in Sydney, Gadigal Radio with Brad Cook. And then coming back here, where it all started at 2XX Community Radio. So very privileged to, do all that and learn other cultures and songs and languages and dances. But I had to learn my own. So I went to IATSIS and started my Ngunnawal language. And the song I'm going to sing to you today is in Ngunnawal language, and it's about the kangaroos, the Murrumbidgee River, the black crow, the Yulkumbrak, and various other flora and fauna. So, in saying that, on behalf of my father, and my elders, past, present and emerging, welcome to Ngunnawal country. I hope you all have a great stay here today, and wherever you may go, take that back with you. Bolo Yaramara! Bolo Yaramara! You can brag! Bolo Yaramara! 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 Ngunnawal dura mamari! Ngunnawal dura mamari! Yaramara! Yaramara! Ngunnawal dura! Ngunnawal dura mama biji warari mama biji yomabi. You gonna buy, you gonna buy, you gonna buy, you gonna buy mama di mama di mama di amari. Yerma, mubari, Ngunnawal dura. Welcome.
Please welcome to the stage Ian Rouse from AWS.
G'day and kia ora koutou. Thank you so much to Uncle Billy for his welcome. And to kick off, can I also extend my personal thanks to Billy joining us today and extend my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are with us today, be it in the room or on our live stream. And of course, a special shout out to our Māori and Pacifica friends as well. Hey, guess what? Welcome. Welcome customers, partners and friends to the 2023 AWS Public Sector Symposium here in fabulous Canberra. I'm Ian Rouse and I lead the public sector business for AWS across Australia, New Zealand and across Oceania. You know, today's an opportunity for us to come together, to share knowledge and push the boundaries of what's possible with the cloud. And thank you all for joining us, be it here in the room or on our live stream. We've got a full day planned for you. It's chock-a-block. We've got filled with exciting talks, insightful discussions, as well as learning and networking opportunities. Look, I'm sure you've already checked out one of the more 20 sessions we have across 4 tracks on topics starting from generative AI, one of the hot topics of this year for sure, to zero trust, to backups, to resiliency, and much, much more. We hope when you leave today that you leave with inspiration and ideas and really some really tacit examples you can take forward on how your organisation can innovate as you modernise and digitally transform in order to improve the lives of the communities in which we work and live. You know, today wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. So just a quick shout out and a thank you to all of our platinum and silver sponsors for making today's event possible. Thank you. And look, speaking of sponsors and of course our fantastic partner network, the place to be is the Expo. So if you have a spare 15 minutes, please drop by the Expo. Bunch of stuff to look at, some really cool demos. You'll find some Gen AI, generative AI training and certification pieces there. You'll also find ways to ask an expert. So you can sneak up on a solution architect and ask your hardest questions. They'll love me for saying that, right? But you can find them in the Expo later on. The other thing also is, you'll notice this really flat object, which is kind of cool. You've got to check out the SunSwift car, right? This thing was the world's fastest solar-powered car in 2022. Built University of New South Wales, homegrown intellectual property, because that's Aussie know-how. And if we think about that particular car, it uses a whole raft of AWS technology, from Internet of Things through to compute and serverless, of course, AI and ML. And it uses all of that to operate the car as efficiently as possible. You know, every day at AWS, we're astounded. We're astounded to see the incredible success of our customers and partners. We're impressed by your tenacity and your ambition to build and invent. Today, we've got hundreds of thousands of active customers across Australia and New Zealand. And supporting that is a network of more than 100,000 partners. You know, our partners are critical. They're critical to our success and the success of our customers. The partner network contains numerous Australian-owned technology companies who are here to help you be successful, as well as supporting global system integrators. And these partners work super close and closely with our public sector customers, again, to deliver services for our citizens. You know, since opening our office a decade ago now and more, we've continued to make purposeful investments to help Aussie organisations innovate, grow, and unlock the potential of cloud. We're here for the long haul. As part of our continuing commitment to drive economic development across Australia, earlier this year we announced that we're investing more than $13 billion in the country over the next 5 years. But what does this mean for you? Well, firstly, it means choice. The first place we're investing is in our infrastructure. Our infrastructure not only supports our customers and partners, our investments fuel growth, it drives productivity in our economy, and of course creates jobs. You know, we launched our Sydney region back in 2012, over 10 years ago now, and earlier this year, we announced our second region in Australia in Melbourne. Here's what this means for you. Through our partners, as customers, as driving innovation to the cloud, you can now have more choice, you've got more options. And what that means is you can run workloads with greater resilience, higher availability, and lower latency. It means that Aussie customers now have multiple options from our local zone in Perth through to our soon-to-be operating local zone in Brisbane. You can push workloads wherever your customers are and where citizens live. Take the cloud as close to them as possible. All of the data, when you deploy in this infrastructure, stays in Australia's borders. The second piece, though, and we have to think about this all the time, we have to think about what is the shadow we're casting. How do we cast a shadow which is positive across all that we do? And we're investing into the communities, environments where we operate. Look, we've got a goal. Our goal is to reach net carbon zero by 2040 by investing in renewable energy and collaborating with our partners to broaden this impact. And to give you, an insight into what we're doing, we've got grid-scale facilities in Gunnedah and in Hilltop in New South Wales. They're our solar facilities. And we've got a to-be-launched wind farm facility in Hawkesdale in Victoria. These are local investments in Australia so that we can take that pressure off the grid and consume our own produced energy. But what this means for all of our customers is this, that we're on a very clear path to powering all our operations with 100% renewable energy by 2025. But it doesn't stop there, because if you think about responsibilities when it comes to the driest inhabited continent on the planet, well, we've got to have a conversation about water as well. And so water stewardship is front of mind. We've set a goal, and the goal is to be water positive by 2030. What this means is that AWS will be returning more water to the communities we operate in than which we consume through our direct operations. Now, if you want to have a quick look from a customer or partner point of view, you can jump onto the console and just whip out the Customer Carbon Footprint tool. So if you're curious about what this means for you, you can access the console, grab this dashboard today, and actually see what your emissions are offset just by using AWS. And importantly, it gives you a future path, because with our investments and our innovation, you'll continue to reduce your carbon footprint. So feel free to check that tool out today. You know, we've got a deep commitment to our communities as well. How are we investing in those areas? One example is what we call our AWS Disaster Response Team. This organisation helps organisations and community service groups here in Australia access cloud services and resources at the very, very edge of the cloud. And it can help communities more efficiently prepare and respond to disasters. And these provide more meaningful ways to help customers move fast and provide resilient solutions. You know, just as an example, a company called Exi uses AWS AI/ML, and remarkably, they can detect smoke and alert authorities within 3 minutes of that smoke appearing. Just incredible technology. And look, we've also released a recent announcement, which is our 5th disaster relief hub in Australia, in Adelaide. These disaster relief hubs pre-provision the things we need as citizens before disaster hits. And so we've got the things we need and are accessible. But when I talk about responsibility, there's something which really matters today in our economy, which is skills, right? And so we invest heavily in upskilling our citizens in cloud technology, because what we found is that folks who have advanced digital skills contribute more than $41 billion into the country's economic growth, into our annual GDP. And we're investing through customers, through education, through direct training, and through our support. And we develop our own programs as well. We've got curriculum to help skill, upskill, or reskill Australians who really want to participate in this digital economy. Look, there's a lot to learn, but we've simplified it down. And we've simplified it in a way which makes it more accessible. So from Skill Builder to Educate to Restart, there are choices for you. Even Cloud Up, a personalised experience inside your agency or department where we can bring skills to your organisation. And whether you're age 16 or above, there's something here for you. So please check this out when you can. If you've got an hour free, your cloud journey starts today. You know, these programs and indeed all of our investments are geared towards providing greater opportunity, increased productivity, and to help build a dynamic and competitive and indeed diversified Australian economy. We've grown so much together, but we're just getting started. I'm thrilled to hand over the stage to Simon, who will lead our keynote and share some of the exciting new innovations that can help drive your productivity forward. He'll be joined on stage by two incredible speakers who are really going to share their own insights of their digital transformation. And look, thank you for joining us again. I'm so excited to see what you're going to build.
Please welcome to the stage Simon Elisha from AWS.
Thanks, Ian, and g'day, everyone. I'm Simon Elisha. I'm Chief Technologist here for Public Sector in Australia, New Zealand, and Oceania. I'm also the host of the official AWS podcast, so if you're not listening, please do. Now, I've been at AWS for well over a decade. In fact, as long as AWS has been operating in the region. And in that time, I've not just seen AWS grow, but I've seen you, our customers, grow. And like Ian said, we're just getting started. So today's keynote is going to be chockers. We've got great customer speakers, even a couple of demos. Now, public sector customers here in Australia are continuing to push the boundaries of how they can digitally transform. You're leveraging the cloud to get the speed, agility, and security needed to deliver on your strategy. And you're doing it whilst ensuring the highest levels of security and keeping costs low. Rapid change is underway across digital government, from projects that help urban infrastructure scale for commuters, to helping emergency services provide the right services to citizens faster, to creating solutions that help secure elections and make them resilient, to making weather forecasts available 24/7, and so much more. Today, governments can harness the power of the cloud to offer citizens easier access to services and to improve their quality of life. So let's start with some useful mental models for your cloud journey. Often when we look at the scope of a problem, it can be both inspiring and incredibly daunting. So many moving parts, so much to do, and it can take an age to get everything lined up, can't it? But you don't have to do it that way. If you scope down your actions to prove a smaller point, to showcase that something impactful can be done, you can move fast and at low risk. This is think big, act small. You create a series of reversible decisions. We call these two-way doors. And this gets you the progress that you need. For example, a major Australian bank many years ago during the what is the cloud phase said, this might be useful to us, how can we prove it out? They moved their entire marketing website to AWS, well before it was cool. And they did this because they were thinking big about their future and how they would digitally transform, but they acted small with something that they could manage and communicate success with. You also need to be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. I'm going to repeat that. Be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. You need to know what it is you're heading to, what you're trying to get done. But the way you get there is subject to change. And guess what? You're allowed to change. You can respond to the ground truth as you see it. Because if you can find a better and easier way to get somewhere, you should take that path. Now, the Australian government's priorities are our priorities, driving productivity and economic development using technology. And you're being asked to do more with less. This means leveraging the right tools and capabilities, ensuring proper security and protection, and thinking big, particularly around artificial intelligence, machine learning, generative AI, etc. Through this, we're laying foundations for modernisation and future prosperity right here in Australia. With AWS, you have the opportunity to think big, but you can also act small. Get started with a small project, application, or initiative. And when I say that you should be stubborn on the vision but flexible on the details, the flexibility is found in the cloud. 58% of Australian companies that use cloud introduced new innovative products and services in just the last 2 years. For public sector organisations, by using the cloud, they simplify the creation of new applications and services for citizens. This means lighter weight processes and easier ways for you to go further, faster. In 2022 alone, we launched over 3,332 new services and features. This means that the platform you're using just gets faster, better, and more cost-effective as you use it. And you can focus on innovation. Now, doing more with less applies both to your budget and our impact on the planet. You heard from Ian earlier about our sustainability commitments and how we're focused on efficiency and continuous innovation across our global infrastructure. For example, we designed our own processes, starting with AWS Graviton, which today delivers the best end-to-end performance and energy efficiency in the cloud. In fact, our third-generation processes use up to 60% less energy than comparable EC2 instances, and customers are achieving up to 40% better price performance just by shifting their workloads to this CPU type. Now, this can help both of your goals in terms of sustainability and budgetary savings. So what we're going to do is look at a very quick demo. Now, I understand the demo gods will. They're cruel and they're unkind. And doing a demo in a big hall like this on Wi-Fi in a conference centre is a recipe for disappointment and sadness. Therefore, I have recorded my demo on my laptop. I've edited it down for brevity because sitting around with a few hundred of your closest friends watching a 3-minute database build is not the best use of your time. But let's kick off the demo. And what I'm going to show you is migrating a database from an x86 platform into the Graviton platform. So here's the relational database service, and it's a large instance. I think it's 96 cores or something like that. And it's running some performance tests. As I said, I've sped it up. I'm telling you what I've sped up, just to get a baseline of performance. Now, the process of changing this database, no index changes, no data changes, no unload, reload. I can even do it in place. Although in production, I'd recommend a duplicate, which happens automatically, and away you go. But, demos, we can do what we like. And so I can change it to the Graviton processor type, make it an immediate change and say, hey, go ahead and do this. Now, this took 6.5 minutes to do the change. And once it was done, I'm on my new platform type. I'm going to run my performance tests again. And what the statistics are going to tell me is that the performance is basically the same, except the price for that instance type is 12% lower. That's a small example. You can do this with Lambda. When you choose your Lambda serverless code, you choose ARM64. The happy path is there. If you're creating a Redis or Memcache cluster, the defaults are actually Graviton instances, best price performance for your workload. You can change your existing ones to that too. And similarly, if you're creating an open search domain, again, the default is Graviton. We want you to get the best value possible and make it easy for you to do that. Let's come back to the slides, thanks. Now, no matter who you are, data is core to your strategy. And data is the cornerstone of almost every organisation's digital transformation. If leveraged the right way, it can help you serve your citizens and constituents more quickly and effectively. To harness the full potential of the data, though, it's important to evolve into a modern end-to-end data strategy. Now, it doesn't need to be perfect day one, and it doesn't need to have all your data. With a strong foundation, you're set up to start experimenting, being free to think big, but act small. And by doing this, your data can properly be accessed and stored and unified and analysed and visualised and all the good stuff. But really, the main thing is to get insights and predictions from it. AWS has the broadest set of services across databases, analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence for all kinds of use cases and data types. And it's this broad set of services that lets you stay stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. Now, something that we all do, hopefully, each and every year is file our taxes, lodge our tax returns. The Australian Taxation Office, our friends at the ATO, host a number of their online services and platforms on AWS. This means hosting taxpayer systems to scale to support tax time each year. AWS helps the ATO ingest huge amounts of pre-filled data at scale during the peak lodgement period, which is typically July to October. This makes it easier and simpler for Australians to lodge their tax returns on time. In fact, 2 million tax returns were processed with the support of AWS this year. Also pretty cool was that ATO was able to use AWS to quickly adjust and make it simpler for individuals and businesses to apply for new programs and adapt to changing rules. And this is expanding to include pre-fill data and data capture for the sharing economy jobs and side incomes like short-term home rentals. Another organisation, the Queensland Police, the QPS, built a data lake on AWS. This allows them to layer multiple applications on top to help them better serve their officers and the community. Two of these applications are QSearch and QFace. QSearch enables officers to search QPS structured and unstructured data within the data lake. By breaking down the data silos that can impede and slow down investigations, investigators can access information to help them solve crimes faster. QFace provides officers, especially those known as super recognisers, with potential suspect matches from QPS holdings. By doing all of this, it's allowing QPS investigators to revisit unsolved crimes and including cold cases. Another industry that's benefiting from breaking down data silos is research. Research organisations are using the cloud to enable global collaboration, crossing borders and institutions, catalysing breakthroughs in areas from climate change to human health. We've recently launched new offerings that can help research organisations improve their time to science and speed up scientific discoveries. One is Amazon Lightsail for Research, you can see happening behind me as we speak. And this enables researchers to run their preferred research applications all pre-installed and configured via a web browser. Another is Amazon Omics, a purpose-built service to store, query and analyse genomic and biological data at huge scale. One organisation using the cloud to accelerate their research is the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation, better known as CSIRO, an Australian government agency responsible for scientific research. CSIRO is at the forefront of machine learning and artificial intelligence research in Australia. It's been a leader in the adoption of the cloud and have been using it for more than a decade. Let's watch a short video before we welcome up our next speaker to the stage.
Every challenge contains a seed of opportunity. Opportunities to improve life for all of us. We know this because we've been trusted to solve challenges for more than 100 years. We are proudly and uniquely placed to solve these great challenges through innovative science and technology to unlock a better future, better for our community, our economy, and our planet. CSIRO, Australia's national science agency.
Please welcome to the stage Angus McCustra from CSIRO.
Thanks, Simon, and hi everyone. Great to be here today and to be able to share a bit about CSIRO's journey with cloud. So, Australia has strong scientific capability, rich natural resources, a diverse and unique natural ecosystem, and globally competitive industry. We have a community that cares about sustainability and industry that is keen to harness innovation and capitalise on these strengths. We want to do science that matters, and we want to deliver solutions that improve people's lives in ways that matter. But the reality is there are impossible challenges bearing down on our country, from climate adaptation and shifting to net zero, to superbugs, global digital disruption, and the need for ongoing stewardship of our precious natural environment. These are all problems that science has a role in solving. And they won't be solved by any one person or one organisation. It will take all of us working together, sharing priorities and goals, ideas and inventions, people and infrastructure. So as Australia's national science agency, our role is to solve the greatest challenges through innovative science and technology. We do this by contributing to scientific collaboration between the industry, government and research sectors, delivering national facilities and helping train up the next generation of Australian scientists. So in 2016, CSIRO identified 6 national challenges as vital to the future of our nation. These include food security and quality, health and well-being, resilient and valuable environments, sustainable energy and resources, future industries, and a secure Australia and region. In 2020, we launched our missions program. The missions program is our response to the challenges. It's the how after the what. We now have 8 missions that bring together a broad coalition of partners to work on clear and ambitious goals. These include the hydrogen industry mission, drought resilience, future protein, trusted agri-food exports, ending plastic waste towards net zero, minimising antimicrobial resistance, and the Aquawatch mission. So the missions program was developed in recognition of the fact that the complex challenges facing us today, they can't be solved by any one organisation or even any one country alone. Rather, their complexity and urgency requires partners to bring their expertise and resources together to make impactful change. So as the CTO or Chief Technology Officer for CSIRO, my challenge is to foster innovative technology capabilities and services that underpin and enable the work of CSIRO's research and engineering teams with our partners. So CSIRO has been using cloud for many years. With our first project with AWS was back in 2014, and that was in support of our water management and risk assessment research. So even back in 2014, cloud was showing promise on its ability to enable cross-organisational collaboration. As part of these projects, we needed to partner with other agencies involved in environment and natural resource assessments, but it was difficult. Our challenge was we had different IT environments, different approaches to security and information sharing, and this made it hard to work across our organisations. So that's when we looked to using cloud as an enabler for multi-organisation collaboration. So between 2014 and 2018, we were using cloud in largely an ad hoc fashion. Individual projects were doing their own thing. We had cloud being purchased on credit cards with little coordination. And as a result, we really weren't achieving any large-scale impact through its use. So there was no broader thinking about data governance or enabling solutions for wider adoption. So while CSIRO has been leading in our technology use for many years, our 2018 strategy brought a focus towards elevating our impact through digitalisation. We recognise that for the success of the large-scale multidisciplinary science happening in our missions, we needed to start to drive the uptake of consistent, repeatable digital solutions to address the collaboration needs and the delivery of our science to industry and the Australian community. So in 2019, we introduced the CloudWrite project, which was CSIRO's approach to manage cloud. We introduced guardrails for billing, security, governance, and data storage locality. We used consistent patterns and infrastructure as code to start to minimise cyber and other risks to our data. We established agreements with the clouds and Australian technology partners, and our research team started to benefit from secure data, cost savings, and efficiencies. These efficiencies removed the setup effort for our project teams, whilst enabling collaboration with those partners, and ultimately allowing faster time to science and faster time to impact. This project has made it easier, safer, and cheaper for our researchers to store, analyse, and collaborate on data. It has realised a platform for researchers to deliver solutions to industry and ultimately create a better future for Australia. So we're now seeing cloud used across many areas of our research, from the use of computer vision in analysing MRIs of the lungs to development of a decision support system for minerals exploration and discovery, through to supporting management of our natural environment. And the last image here is of eReefs, which is a long-term collaboration between several national agencies to support the assessment of reef conditions and prediction of what might happen to the reef under different scenarios. eReefs is a high-resolution model of the Great Barrier Reef, and has been underway since 2011, with the results available to the Australian public since 2015. CSIRO's contribution is a suite of models that form a digital twin of the reef system. The challenge the team was facing is that the reef is very large, and the models could only be feasibly run at a wide resolution, too coarse to provide any useful insight. So there was no way to run a single model of the entire reef system that resolves all of those influences on the reef at the resolution needed. So the team is now using AWS to get the scalability and on-demand compute they need to be able to run what we call a sharded model. And that model allows us to generate a twin for a specific geographical location of interest. This has allowed the team to develop a system that is much more timely in the information it can provide to a wider set of users. We also use cloud to support the collection and analysis of Earth observation data. So CSIRO runs the Novasar-1 satellite mission tasking through AWS. And we also have a redundant solution for ground stations, scripted in infrastructure as code, and ready for deployment if there are ever any issues with our primary provider. These are projects, there are projects underway to better understand the application of synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, to bushfire and flooding events, which are obviously increasing in intensity and frequency. The key advantage of SAR is it can operate in all weather, so it does away with some of the main drawback of traditional optical satellites, can effectively see through clouds, smoke, and even at night. So currently Novasar doesn't support regular operational support to bushfires, but it does show huge potential for Australian fire services to assist in their emergency response, something our research teams are currently exploring with colleagues in National Emergency Services. Of course, just like with any technology, the cloud is not a tool that we can set and forget. So for it to be used to its full capacity, the guardrails that support it require constant upkeep and investment. Organisations need to be committed to continuing to explore the possibilities of use and be aware that as new capabilities emerge and develop, new opportunities are going to present. For example, we're starting to use cloud for access to quantum computers. And so as we start to develop quantum algorithms and new software approaches for use in our science, obviously the potential here is incredible, but it also carries with it a new set of challenges that we're going to have to adapt to. So even though CSIRO has been using cloud for more than a decade, we are really just at the beginning of the possibilities when it comes to cloud. As evidenced by our missions program, the ability of science and innovation to solve our greatest challenges will be through bringing organisations together. For that to happen efficiently and effectively, teams need secure platforms to share data and solutions. And that's where cloud can be incredibly powerful. Cloud enables collaboration. It is at the intersection between science and data, and it is a critical enabler to solving our greatest challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Angus. What amazing stuff the CSIRO does all the time. Security is our top priority at AWS. And we understand the unique security needs of public sector organisations in Australia. To help you meet some of the most stringent security and compliance requirements, we have an extensive set of security and encryption services. This means you can be more productive and spend more time experimenting and innovating. AWS supports 143 security standards and compliance certifications, including PCI DSS, GDPR, HIPAA, and ISO 27001. We're also a certified strategic hosting provider under the Hosting Certification Framework, or the HCF. And to help with support for compliance for our Australian government agencies, we developed an IRAP documentation pack supporting our IRAP protected assessment. In fact, our latest IRAP assessment brings the total number of services assessed at the protected level to 145. We do this to make it simpler for you to get started in the cloud. I want you to spend less time in boring, repetitive review meetings and more time evaluating the next capability you're going to add by automating your governance strategy. Your mindset when you approach governance might need to change. You might need to be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. We also have tools to automate your security and compliance needs. For a fully managed cloud security posture service, check out the AWS Security Hub that you can see running behind me. For threat detection, you can continuously monitor your AWS accounts and workloads for malicious activity with Amazon GuardDuty. To continuously assess, audit, and evaluate the configurations and relationships between resources on AWS or on premises or in other clouds, there's of course AWS Config. And did you know that AWS Config has conformance packs? These are pre-built governance rule sets, and they include both the ISM and the Essential 8. And of course, to automate that most exciting process is the audit process. There's AWS Audit Manager, which automates evidence collection against various frameworks. One organisation in the US helps keep their data secure and compliant is the Queensland University of Technology, or QUT. To aid in rare disease research, the e-research team at QUT developed the Trial Ready Registry Framework. This is an open source digital platform to collect and analyse health data. The registry was deployed for Angelman syndrome, or AS, a rare neurodevelopmental disorder. Through this, individuals with AS around the world self-register and share patient-related information to accelerate clinical research and facilitate clinical trial participation. Using AWS enabled the university to protect patient data and meet the data handling and governance guidelines of Australia and other countries. If security is important to you, I encourage you to visit the Ask the Experts booth at the Expo to learn more. To reimagine what is possible and to drive long-lasting impact, you have to be willing to think big. The cloud allows you to innovate faster, acting small, being nimble, and being able to launch new solutions and test and iterate quickly while removing risks and constraints. This gives you the freedom to try bigger and bolder and better things, like AI and ML. At Amazon, we're committed to fostering the development of AI that is safe, responsible, and trustworthy. Travellers in Sydney have lots of choices when it comes to public transportation, from ferries to metro lines, buses, trains, even the new light rail. Transport for New South Wales is using machine learning on AWS to transition from historically based analytics to forward-looking models with predictive capability. This helps them provide commuters with real-time information on their travels and helps them make the best decisions for their journeys. And by using Amazon SageMaker, Transport for New South Wales teams effectively save half the time required to build and train ML models. The predictive capability also helps operators plan for, or react quickly to, service disruptions and delays, improving commutes and customer satisfaction. And then, of course, there's generative AI. So first, what is it? Well, it's actually been around for a little while, and it's a type of machine learning powered by ultra-large models, including large language models known as LLMs. These models are pre-trained on a vast amount of data and are typically known as foundation models, or FMs. When it comes to training these models, I want you to think three things: months, millions, and minds. Months of training time, millions of dollars of IT cost, and expensive, highly skilled minds to do it all. So let me give you an example. And when I mention some of these model names, it's like being in a Star Trek movie sometimes. So the Llama 2 model, which was developed by Meta, needed about 23 days of training using over 2,000 GPUs, and the cost of training was estimated to be about $30 million US. The Falcon 40B model was trained on 384 NVIDIA A100 GPUs, try getting hold of some of those, and that took 2 months. AWS gives you the flexibility to work with publicly available models or build your own foundation models, since model choice is paramount. And it's really likely you're going to use lots of different models. This is democratizing generative AI. Now, related to this, we recently announced Amazon Bedrock, a fully managed service for building and scaling generative AI applications. Customers can tailor foundation models with their own data and integrate and deploy them securely into applications using the AWS services they're already familiar with. whilst keeping their data private and secure in their own virtual private cloud. We offer access to the best-in-class foundation models and the option to choose your preferred model or build your own. And this choice allows you to build differentiated applications. So again, I felt this was a great opportunity for a demonstration. So let's jump into a demo here and I'll tell you what we've got. So I've jumped into the Federal Register of Legislation, because it's where I spend my time. And I pulled out the Financial Accountability Bill of 2022 to see what it could do with 111 pages of very important and no doubt fascinating reading legislation around that industry. I downloaded it to my laptop. And what I wanted to do is to see, could I summarise and get insight from this very, very quickly without it being trained on any data, just using an off-the-shelf model. And I deployed this using SageMaker, and here what you're seeing me do is choose a particular model. I used the Llama 2 model just because it was new at the time, and I wanted to see how it worked. And I'm uploading my file, and you'll see a picture of what it's doing in a moment here. And I've sped this up 3 times normal speed. This whole process, 83 seconds. It uploads the file to Amazon S3. It prepares it by calling Amazon Textract to tokenize all the information. And then it's using an Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart endpoint. It took me all of 15 minutes to set up to actually run the model. And what you'll see is this process doesn't let you have time to go make yourself a cup of coffee. Because in 84 seconds, what will come back is not just the information ready to be queried and some nice balloons, but a beautiful summary, like you'd ask someone to write for you about that legislation. That actually makes a lot of sense. It also suggests some questions you might want to ask. So for example, tell me about the concept of an accountable entity versus an accountable person. Sounds very legal and lawyery and kind of important. Again, one call. That's the actual function call I used to make this request using the document into the language model I'm running, because I don't believe in keynotes without code. And so again, this ran in only 44 seconds. So you can't even ask someone to get you a coffee. And it produced a really substantial and accurate summary of the information. Imagine what this can do in your workflow, in your environment. This is just a taste of what's to come. The potential here is enormous. Let's jump back. One area where the use of generative AI is growing rapidly is in software development. For this, we built Amazon Code Whisperer, a new cloud-based service trained on billions of lines of code that can generate real-time suggestions and snippets and even full functions like you see behind here. And during our service test of this, we found that developers were on average 57% faster in doing their work and 27% more likely to get it right. This is the only AI coding companion with built-in security scanning for finding and suggesting remediations. And will also filter and flag code suggestions that resemble open source code that customers might want to reference or license for later use. And the best news is it's free to use for individuals. Australia is a land with a long and rich history. Our next guest speaker represents the meeting of that rich history with our future. Winyama Digital Solutions, a member of the AWS Partner Network and an Indigenous partner, is a geospatial location intelligence and digital solutions provider. Their founder is focused on working with Indigenous communities, managing and preserving their culture, land, and the environment. Winyama is also working to train and enable the next generation of young Indigenous talent seeking careers in technology. Before we bring our next speaker out, let's take a look at a short video.
Winyama at its core is about Indigenous employment in the tech sector, and our mission is to bring more Indigenous people into this tech workforce. Our employment strategy that we've had over the last couple of years has really opened up new worlds for the Indigenous staff that we've employed. They're the ones who are at the front lines of the Indigenous digital inclusion space, but also the Indigenous innovation space as well. Our social initiatives like the Indigenous Mapping Workshop really act as that gateway for that sector. Together we dream up these amazing programs to do in the community and solutions that we make for our own community. So how good does that sound as a job, right? It's amazing.
Please welcome to the stage Andrew Dowding from Winyama Digital Solutions.
Thank you, Simon, and Waiba, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to pay my respects to the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the land that we meet on today. So my name is Andrew Murrumburri Dowding, and I'm a Nulama traditional owner from Western Australia. And I'm the Managing Director for Winyama, a for-purpose geospatial and cloud consultancy. For purpose, what is that? For us, it's really about having a profitable consulting business that serves as an incubator for Indigenous tech talent. And this endeavour is a collective one, and it's one that I want to extend to each of you and your organisations. I just want to take a quick look up at the tech sector in Australia. So according to the ABS, Australia's technology sector is contributing significantly to the country's economy. And in 2021, our sector directly contributed $167 billion to Australia's economy. And this is a massive workforce that we need dedicated to this industry. And the government has set goals to increase the numbers of people employed in this sector to 1.2 million in 2030. However, from an Indigenous community standpoint, we need to take a closer look at who will be filling these roles. The reality is that Indigenous Australians remain direly underrepresented in the tech sector. Right now, Australia is facing a shortage of Indigenous companies able to fulfil even the smallest section of that work in the IT market. The last census in 2021 revealed that there were only 1,402 Indigenous ICT workers in Australia. But there are a range of government policies currently at work to improve this situation, and I'm going to go through a couple of them. So the National Indigenous Australian Agency has developed the First Nations Digital Inclusion Plan, and this builds on the commitment to closing the gap and stating that by 2026, First Nations people should have equal levels of digital participation and digital inclusion. And I think these targets are very much concentrated on an inclusion space, which is great. It's a great starting place. But however, we also need to build momentum around the deeper economic and commercial opportunities for Indigenous communities and the companies as well. So I highlighted the tech skills shortage, and it's magnified in the First Nations community. But this year, the government set out a discussion paper for some Indigenous-focused activities addressing the Indigenous tech skills gap. And this included discussions around enhanced analysis of regional skills and labour needs, an analysis of skills and labour market needs of Indigenous people. And they're really right to address this stuff. We really need targeted approaches to the regions where there is an Indigenous tech sector flourishing. And we need to concentrate on the emerging Indigenous tech workforce. But I think that out of all the government policies that impact on the Indigenous business landscape, it's the Indigenous procurement policy that's probably the one to understand. And the main mechanism of the IPP creates a mandate for the government to spend 3% of all contracts with Indigenous organisations. And this year, there were 1,872 contracts, and they were awarded under the IPP to the value of 377 mil, and that's across all of the government portfolios. And this policy really provides Indigenous Australians with a really robust opportunity to participate in the economy. But for the tech portfolio, it provides us with a huge challenge. So last year, the federal government budgeted more than $2 billion in the digital and IT sector. And if we are looking to reach the mandated 3% spend across Commonwealth IT, there'd be about $60 million of work to allocate towards Indigenous procurement for IT goods and services. The challenge is there's just not enough Indigenous IT companies to buy from. And in order to service this work, we really need to grow the Indigenous tech sector, and we need to ensure that this spend happens with skilled Indigenous companies and with companies committed to growing the skills base of Indigenous people. So I want to share a few examples of how Indigenous procurement policy has benefited my organisation, Winyama. It's benefited us our organisation because it's encouraging us to bring our Indigenous staff with really specialised skill sets into government engagements. And this policy gives us flexibility and provides an avenue for us to grow our own technical capabilities. For example, Tim here, developing his geospatial skill sets, which are really high demand skill sets, even in our Indigenous communities as well. So a profitable business, which is what the IPP's allowed us to grow, we've been able to grow staff. Winyama doesn't just go out and find Indigenous employees, we have to build them. And I mentioned earlier that we serve as an Indigenous tech incubator. Well, we've built Indigenous cloud internships and geospatial internships for our people to invest in their future. And I mentioned before about the regional focus of the government's digital inclusion plan. Well, Winyama's identified this huge Indigenous tech workforce out in the regions, and we network them and we teach them tech skills through our Indigenous mapping workshop, with over 70% of our Indigenous of people coming to our workshops from regional and remote places. And we offer practical tech training, early digital literacy skills. We encourage the talented ones to go through into cloud streams and Earth observation and drones and enterprise GIS. Our program is really fostering and helping to grow the regional Indigenous tech sector. And this year we had some guys from AWS, Mike Hill and Matt Payton, come to join our national event, and they taught people, they ran sessions on Indigenous data sovereignty in the cloud, which is going to be a really important challenge for our communities coming into the future. So I want to leave you with a few thoughts on your own impact on the Indigenous tech sector. Chances are your organisations have reconciliation action plans and they have Indigenous procurement policy targets, and as you strive for more meaningful engagement, take a moment just to think about how your IT spend could be procured from an Indigenous organisation. There are a number of us, Indigenous organisations here, companies with me at the Indigenous Partner booth on the floor today, so come and see us and speak to us about our services. But lastly, no matter how positive the policy landscape is for Indigenous businesses, the ultimate decision to buy from Indigenous partners rests with you. And I want to leave you with the commitment that when you procure from an Indigenous company, your spend has a much greater impact than you might think. Our mob really care about the development of the Indigenous tech community, and your return on that investment is knowing that you did a small part in developing the Indigenous tech sector now and into the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrew. What an inspiring story. I've shared a lot today, and I hope it has inspired you to get started or build on what you already have. Like I say, be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. This gives you the freedom to find the happy path. And remember, you do not have to wait. You can think big and act small. Get going fast, do something impactful. You'll be amazed what can get done this way. And you are not alone. The AWS team and our partners are here to help you find your way. I've thrown a QR code up here on the screen behind me. Please take our survey and tell us what you think about what you've heard here today. Then stop by the expo hall and ask an AWS expert or partner your big, bold questions, or even just the basic ones you need an answer to. The time to get started is right now. And I'm so excited to see what you build. Thank you so much.